What is going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Black Desert. So today is going to be a special day and a special kind of video. So mostly what we're going to be doing is talking about like progression in this game. In terms of actual gameplay, we're just probably going to be cooking. So this is something you're going to have to let me know whether you're into these kind of videos or you're not, so I could just know for the future. But I wanted to try something out. Mostly just answer a lot of questions that I've been getting on YouTube. But before we do anything, let me just get all this stuff out and prepare so we can AFK for, well, not AFK, but like just do something while we're in game. So yeah, we're just going to be answering questions, looking at the market in just like real time, and I'll just be going over a lot of other things. It's going to be like, it's not going to be in any specific order, but it's mostly just a lot of questions. It may help newer players, so if you're an experienced player right now, this may or may not be interesting for you, but this could help newer players who are thinking about getting into the game, or like, let's say it's your first month into the game and you have no idea what you're doing. So that could be something interesting. Think of it more like something you can listen to more than watch. But I mean, if you enjoy watching me cook beer, then that's cool too. So before we get started, I do have the pearl costume, and that like increases the time by a few seconds. Yeah, like 2. You mostly just use it for the extra 2 seconds. Let me see. Let me check the market. Is there any Tef sandwiches? Ooh. I don't think I'll be cooking for that long. Alright, cool. I think those actually sell out quick, so let me buy a few. Oh, we're on cooldown. Oh, rip. Could actually buy some for the future. Did it go through? Okay, it went through. Marketplace lag. Alright, so let me see. Got my life XP buff going on. What else do we have? Alchemy crystal. Let's turn that on. They actually added something recently for you can just do your learned recipes. Alright, so 5 of these. 1, 2. And where is the water? 6. All right, so now that we're cooking beer, let's get off with the questions. So one of the most requested thing, or not requested, like the most asked question is, what do I do in this game as like an end game player? And so let's start off today when I first like wake up in the morning, because sometimes I overnight fish, so the game is technically on unless I disconnect overnight. So let's say I wake up in the morning and my energy is maxed out. So what I would do is try to burn my energy. And it really depends on the day what I'm doing, just like TLDR, it depends on the day what I want to do. But first thing I would do if I had full energy is probably just try to drain it as fast as possible to do something. So one source of money is going to the Goat Mountain that's around here, and that's where you get a lot of the lamb meat. You can either sell it or you can use it to cook. Most of the time I sell it, but sometimes I use it. Other places, if I want to like gather like logs or something, around here in this area or down in Trent is a good place to gather logs. If I'm lazy and just don't feel like going too far out of town, I would just gather trees in Heidel and then make my way down to like here-ish and then turn back. As you guys can see on the map here, this is my farming thing. I don't really do farming for profit. It's more just to get the ingredients I need to like do whatever I need, like cooking or alchemy. So technically, I think I am actually losing money by farming, but it saves me the headache of having to sit on the market and wait for an item to go or list. So it's better to just make it yourself, even if it like cost you time or a bit of money. So as of right now, in terms of my gear progression, I do have full Tet armor, full Tet weapons, and what I'm working on is accessories. So we got our Tricrescents right here, Tribassi, those are done for now until we go for Tet. What I am going for now is a Tri-Ogre ring, and I'm just, you know, trying to get them off the market and enhance them, and then they keep failing, so that's the thing. So one day I'll get it, and after that, this earring right now will be replaced with a Tungrad, and I've been talking to a lot of people who play Dark Knights, and they said either go 2 red corals or 2 Tungrads, or like if you're in between one of each, that is also okay, but usually red corals or Tungrads are the way to go. And I see more people shifting towards Tungrad because you don't need accuracy as much as you did before, so people are shifting away from these to Tungrads, but ultimately it's up to you. So if you are a new player, yeah, it really depends. So what else do I do after I dump my energy? So right now I have about 348 total energy, so that takes me, I would say, about 2 to 3 hours-ish, or maybe just like 1 to 3 depending on what I'm doing or how distracted I get, to drain it to 0. Velia is my storage where I do a lot of enhancing. That's why all my crystals or shards are here. And, well, this is a bad example because all my money is just been gone into like ogre rings and enhancing stuff. So anyway, after that, I can usually do my cycle of contribution quests, start in Heidel, go to Velia, go to Ovia, stop by Florin, Calpion, then Medea, and then sometimes if I'm not lazy, which 99% of the time I am, you can go to Valencia City and do a few quests there to get contribution. It actually gives a lot, but it's also out in the middle of the desert, which is the biggest pain. So after that, I'm either grinding or just doing whatever, or it could be cooking beer like we are doing now. So, yeah. Alright, so next question. That's basically what I do. I dump my energy, go grind until I get bored, and after I'm done grinding, I then do something, set up like cooking, and then go AFK for a while, and then that's, by the time that happens, it's reset, and we do it again, and then I go AFK fishing for the night, and then recycle or like reset. All right, so next question that I get a lot. This one has to do with the marketplace and how do you gear as a new player? And this one's kind of hard to answer because before you get boss gear, it's kind of like it doesn't really matter as much what you wear until you get your boss gear. That's when like the big decisions happen. But yeah, let's start off with your possible choices and what I would recommend. So the Gruntle set is a really popular one because, one, it's easy to get and easy to upgrade. And the reason why you'd get this one is because it gives a lot of AP and for having the set bonuses. And when you're leveling up against PvE monsters or just like PvE in general, you would rather have more AP than accuracy or anything. Granted, they're both important, but as for PvE, AP is more valuable. What I chose to do back when I started, you can actually watch my Let's Play from the very beginning. I decided to go with the Heave set. And the reason why I chose Heave is because, well, I didn't have as much money back in the day, and obviously it was harder like 9 months ago than it is to this day. Like, you just get free handouts just by playing the game, like do the attendance awards. So getting money isn't exactly hard to do. It's just something that happens over time. So what I chose was Heave. And the reason why I chose to do this is because when I was like leveling up back in the day, I rather have had the HP because I didn't know what I was doing. over the extra AP. I didn't know, like, well, I did know AP was better, but one, I needed the money more. And so going for weapons and upgrades was harder for me. So I just chose the cheaper option. And having the HP, it helps, but really depends on what you want to do. So you can find like even pre-upgraded stuff on the market. And Gruntle is a little bit harder, even to this day, to get. I think you can technically still get it, but it's like harder to find. Yeah, so, like it's harder. There's not as many on the market, and these usually sell out fairly quickly. So in terms of armor, ultimately it doesn't matter what you wear up until you get boss gear, either Gruntle or Heave. There are a few other sets you could use, but in my opinion, if you're going to spend the money, just go with Gruntle or Heave. And in terms of weapons, this is kind of a tricky one because all classes have different stats, and by what I mean, it's kind of like hidden stats, which you may have heard. So characters like wizards have more accuracy as a base, whereas like warriors have more like base defense, and characters like Dark Knights just have a little bit more damage. It's not really clear how much, but there's been a lot of testing to show that classes have different sort of stats, but we don't actually know those numbers. So based on what class you're playing, you can either go with like accuracy or AP. Technically what I did was, let's go with the Kriegmaster because the Dark Knight was one of the classes I know how to like gear up in a way. So if you look at all of these base things, you can see what kind of stats they give, and nowadays they actually show you the hidden stats. So back in the day they didn't, so you kind of just had to know what was what, like I don't know what kind of stats. So what I would recommend once again is just go with the highest AP you can. And the reason why some of these are different is because this one, for example, has accuracy and ignore all resists, and has 17 to 22, whereas this one is 16 to 21, but has damage to humans. So damage to humans is technically what it sounds like for a PvP, and I guess as a new player you wouldn't be PvPing much, so Yuria is just, not the greatest. Kreia is an option because accuracy, so this is kind of what you would use while you're transitioning into boss gear, or you could just use the flat AP one. They have this set called Liberto now, and back in the day, people like kind of questioned it to be, I don't know, like technically it is worse than Zarka. Zarka would be the best in slot thing that you want to go for at the end. It doesn't matter what class you are, because it's more like it just has the best stats overall. So doesn't matter what class, Zarka, there are best in slot items that you will be going for and eventually. So let's take Liberto, and the reason why people don't really get it as much, so let's show you this. Okay, so this is technically what I had back in the day. I enhanced mine up to try, and then I got a Zarka, and then I sold it. So there's a few problems. Now, technically, if we look at this at Tet, so if you get a Liberto, I would not recommend going for Tet. If you do get it, just keep it at try, and then you're good to go until you get your next upgrade. But if some reason you do get a Tet, let's take a look at the stats right now. They're exactly the same. The only difference between that is the Zarka gives 20 extra accuracy, and if you look at the item effect, this gives attack speed. Oh my god, I kind of wish it would just stay, but when I'm cooking, it kind of like flips out. So attack speed for Dark Knights is usually a little bit higher or more valuable than damage or just like the crit, because for a Dark Knight, most of your awakened crit is going to be 100%. So as far as I know, when it says crit hit +3, that means crit hit chance, and you already have 100%. Like most of your skills have 100. I could just show you real quick. So let me see, where is it? If you look at Spirit Blaze, for example, crit hit rate is 100%. Crit hit rate 100, and you get the idea. So that's why attack speed allows you to attack faster, more valuable than Liberto. However, it is also like double the price. But in 2018, getting boss gear is not hard. It's more common to find on the market, and I think they increased the drop rate a few patches ago. So I think maybe like 6 months ago, they increased the odds of getting a boss drop from the boss itself. So I think this is what I remember from reading. It's like, I don't know how they worded it exactly, but what they said, something along the lines of, if 100 people were to attack a boss, 80 of those people would get loot from it. Before, it would be, I don't know, like, it goes by damage, and still to this day. So the top damaged people would get like a higher tier of rewards versus like someone who just came in last second, got one hit on the boss, they would get like a lower tier of rewards. That still happens to this day, but more people can technically get rewards. So that's why it's easier to technically have a chance to get it. So with that said, what you want to aim for, no matter what class you are, is a Zarka weapon at the end. So if you don't know how to get there, you can just type Zarka, and usually it's sold out, but you could look at the pre-orders, which is actually something they added recently. So let's take a look at +0, because most of the time you're either going to find it from 0 to 15 or pry or try. Most likely it's going to be a 0 to 15. So now you can see the pre-orders. The classes that are the hardest to get the Zarkas are probably Witch Wizard, Striker Mystic, and I think one has been going up for Musas and Meiwas more often now. And that's pretty much it. Sometimes longswords are okay, but Dark Knights are considered a dying class because they get like hard countered by Strikers and Mystics, which are the most, they pretty much are OP. I was trying to think of another word, but no, they're really just OP, and everyone knows it. So yeah, that's what you want to go for. In terms of sub-weapons, this one, it's really hard to explain because for different classes, there are different kinds of sub-weapons. So they have, like, for warriors and Valks, they're different, but let's go with the Dark Knight ones. So just because I actually know how to like differentiate them. So in terms of ornamental knots, this is your sub-weapon. You have a Sayer, which at this point in the game right now in the current meta is not that great. The reason why is it gives more DP and it gives accuracy, but most people are playing AP builds, and so it's, you don't really need accuracy to beat AP builds. It's more just like knowing how to play your class at this point. And then you have, if you are interested in PvE, the thing you want to go for is Kudum. And this is a boss drop. You get it from Kudum. You could see it on the map. Back in the day, it didn't even have the icons. So I think it shows you now. Like, you could just, if you make sure to have the monster zone on, it gives you a recommended AP for most of these things to like give you a general idea of where you can grind at your progression level. I would say after looking at all of this, it's pretty accurate, but there are a few things that I wouldn't agree with, and some of those are in the Valencia area, but don't worry about that. If you're in Valencia, that means you're probably going to be level 57 and up. So that's a little bit late game, and by that point you should already know what you're doing. So we'll skip that. And then, but yeah, what I wanted to show you was where the world bosses are. Kudum is right here. This is where you get the PvE sub-weapon. For the most part, I would say every class would use a Kudum for PvE. Nuver is out in the desert down here. So in the desert area, you may notice that you don't have a mini map. You could get a compass and I'll show you. But the best way, if you don't know how to get to Nuver from like Sandgrain Bazaar, because once you leave this area, like pretend there's like an invisible line, your map just goes blank. So what you want to do is position yourself where you'll see an arrow, and then if you hold your, or not hold your T button, but just like hit your T button, you will auto walk. And as long as you're positioning there, you should just go straight line down and you'll get to there. And just kind of make sure, if you don't have a compass, then that's the best way to do it. And if you don't know where you are, a little tip that I can give you, this does involve having a pet, and that means spending either real money or just played like a few thousand hours and you get a free pet, or you just buy one off the market, which is kind of difficult to this day. Not kind of, like actually difficult. So if you are lost in the desert without a compass, a little tip would be to have your pet like ping a location on the map. Let's say if you have a cat, for example, I think those find like resource nodes, and out in the desert they are technically there. It doesn't show you your little arrow, but you could ping a resource node and it'll tell you, like, if you look at your map quick enough, it'll show like a red dot to like where you are, and that's how you can prevent yourself from getting lost. But it's kind of like late game strategy. You don't really need to worry about it if you're not going to be in there. But yeah, I kind of got distracted there going off on sub weapons. And then once again, we have our Nuver. Ooh, that's just kind of sitting there. It's that pry. Wow. I feel like if I switch characters, it's going to be sold out by the time I get it, so whatever. But anyway, Nuver. This is what most people use nowadays, including myself. If you watch some of my old videos, actually, I even mentioned that I never thought I would be using Nuver. And that was because AP recently got buffed to the point where it's actually worth using. And so yeah, that was like the point where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get a Nuver. And this is your full AP one. In terms of Awakening, once you do your Awakening quest, you get a blue one and plus 10 green one. Just from completing the Awakening quest, every class gets it. So, in terms of money, if you are like on a budget, you can get an upgraded green one up until you like make some more. It really depends on how much silver you have in game. So, at the point of when you actually need it. So, if you're on a budget, like a real like strict budget, an upgraded green one is fine. But if you have like more of a budget, I would say try to skip the blue one and get Dandelion. That is the best in slot for all classes. A Dandelion, well, actually, they're not that expensive. We're looking at the really upgraded ones. So, oh my god, someone pre-ordered a Crescent Blade for 630. Oof. Well, anyway, Dandelion, best in slot, what you want to go for at endgame. There's really no other choices. If you are on a budget, go for green. Blue is okay, but I feel like by the time you have enough money to get an upgraded blue, you can probably get a Dandelion. It's not as hard as it was before, and most likely you'll get it from your Nightbender, and it'll probably be cheaper. So, yeah, in terms of armor, let's go on to this now. let's get into the boss armor now. So there is best in slots that you want to go for, and that's fine. But yeah, so this is what I have. And what I'm going to show you is pretty much like what order you want to try to acquire them in. But like, if you see one on the market and you have enough money to buy it and you don't have boss gear, just buy whatever you can technically get first. But if you have an option, what I would go for is the one called Beg's Gloves. This one is kind of common. Like I see a lot of them drop from the boss itself. So the reason why you would want a Beg's Glove is because of the accuracy. And for PvP, this is best in slot. And I guess I would use it even if you are going to PvE too, just so you don't have to like swap out in the future. So this one isn't as expensive as some of the other boss pieces. And it is also the best in slot one currently. So this is what you want to go for first, because accuracy is important if you ever plan on playing or doing any PvP. And I think that might be your endgame goal, because even if you are grinding, most likely there's going to be a chance at one point in your time where there's going to be another person, and that's when you have to like either fight for your spot and defend it, or you just want to PvP in general. So let's kind of get that first. Next thing you want to go for is either a dim tree armor. And there's actually two different kinds of boss pieces right now. I'll show you both of them. So let's start with the less desirable one. So there's red nose armor. This one is technically cheaper and more available. And at late game, they technically do have the same stats. So let's look at this. It has 84 DP, and a Tet dim tree does have 84 as well. The reason why people want dim tree more is because of the extra 200 health from the item effect, whereas red nose gives HP recovery, so that's like every few seconds you get some HP back. It's kind of irrelevant because you can't really stack that with anything. Whereas just a flat 200 extra HP and the max MP and all that stuff, that's really good to have. Just having a total like a higher health pool is usually safer. However, if you really can get a dim tree, red nose also works. So like if you see one at like Try or something on the market and you don't have it, I would go for it just to save you money. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to want to go for dim tree. So let's look at dim tree for a second. Just remember these prices. These are the pre-orders for right now. As you can see, the Tet dim tree is basically double. So is the Try. This is why most people, I would say, are going to get most of your boss gear from the night vendor. That's how I got my actually I got all of these from I got my dim tree from the night vendor, got my Uragons from the night vendor, Begs as well. I got my Dandelion from the night vendor, and then I bought this off the market. I got this from the boss. I bought, like, throughout my time playing, I've gotten like 5 Zarka boxes, so I think it's easy to get. And then as for accessories, those are all self-crafted. But yeah, the dim tree best in slot right now, but it is also like double or triple the price, so just keep that in mind. After that, the third piece of armor you would want to go for is either Uragons or Muskins. Now, Uragons is considered best in slot by like 90% of the classes. And the reason why is it gives more DR versus Muskin. Muskin is an evasion. So it really depends on what kind of build you want to play. Uragons is usually the better choice, because for most people, you just want to survive longer, and Uragons will do that. Whereas Muskins is an evasion build, so like classes like Kuno, Ninja have a higher evasion rate just by like the base stats that we talked about before. So unless you're building a very specific style, then I would just say Uragon, just go for that if you can get it. Right now, the price is pretty high. Back when I was going for it a while back, the pre-orders for a base one would be going for like 700 mil, and after the event box that happened, I think like last month, they like got cut in half, so you can probably pre-order one at a reasonable price now. Well, I mean 300 isn't really reasonable, but it's half the price than it was a month ago. So if you can, try to go for Uragons, but if Muskins is the first thing that pops up on the market, or is like you don't have boss gear, I would technically go for it. Keep in mind, Uragons does have a 2 extra DP flat bonus over Muskins. This is one of those things where it's kind of tricky to recommend, but I would say for 90% of you guys, unless you are playing like a very specific evasion build, try to go for Uragons. It's hard to get, but it's worth it. Last piece of gear, there are 2 different ones called the Griffin Helm and the Gaiath Helm. Oh, there's actually one sitting on the market right now and just didn't buy phase, like no big deal. All right then. But anyway, in terms of stats, the Tet Gaiath and the Tet Griffin are basically the same thing. Griffin is a little bit better because it does have, if you look at the damage reduction, it's 46 plus 19 versus 46 plus 13. So if you really want to min-max, Uragon is slightly better. The other difference is the Gaiath gives 100 extra HP, and the Griffin gives 5% resistance. I personally think resistance is a joke in this game and don't actually notice a difference, and I just wanted it because 1, it looks nicer than the Gaiath, and 2, it does give a little bit more damage reduction. But ultimately, and I can say this for sure, just use whatever one you can get first, because a lot of people I've talked to just say you won't really notice much of a difference. Technically, Griffin is better, but it's not super noticeable. If you were to get like one-shotted in PvP, neither of them would help you. You're still gonna get wrecked. So yeah, that's pretty much covered boss gear. As for accessories, there's like a full DP one called like Kadri rings. If you want full AP, which I think most people do, the more expensive versions are always AP. Then, so there's okay, let's start over. There's 3 different kinds of accessories for like basically every like slot, like earrings, belt, neck, and rings. So they have one side which is your AP, the other side which is DP, and there's like right down the middle there's both of them, like a hybrid. Most people would want to go for AP. That also makes it more expensive. So this is what I've been going for. This one is the ring for getting level 61. It's basically the equivalent of a tri-crescent ring. So it's kind of what you want to go for. If I were you, I would just try to build AP. It'll help you in both PvP and PvE. You don't really need DP in either of them unless you're going for a very, very specific build. And in my opinion, hybrids don't really do as well. This is also true for a lot of other games I've been playing. If you go for one specific build, like full AP or full DP, it's usually better than the hybrid, just usually in general. So I got the Sissel necklace because that was what was cheap back in the day. In terms of total stat points, they're exactly the same as like an ogre, which I'm actually going for right now. Oh wait, hold on. Is there anything on the market? Oh wow, there is nothing good. Alright, so what I'm going for right now is an ogre ring. And that one is just flat AP, but it's also really stupid high cost to make. And so if I were to blow up a duo, that's just like 3 weeks of work down the drain. So I really hope when I get it, I just need to stop failing them, and then we're good to go. So overall, in terms of stats, they're technically the same, like total 25 points into your gear score. But Sissel, it's not the greatest, but it's also cheaper. So ultimately up to you what you want. Most people go with ogres, but I have Sissel because one, I can't get a try. I've blown up so many attempts to the point where I still can't afford to try one if I were to pre-order. They go for about 5 bill, but that's irrelevant. So if you want the cheaper version, go for Sissel. If you want the full AP one, ogre. Basilisk belt is the AP one. Centaur is the DP one. Earrings is kind of personal preference because they have like an HP ring, accuracy ring, and then the AP rings, which are called tongue grads. I do eventually want to go double tongue grad, but that's gonna be like, I don't know, maybe half a year when I get the money for it. So yeah, overall, that was actually a lot of talking for the past 36 minutes for to answer like 2 questions. But yeah, let me know if you guys enjoyed this kind of video where we didn't really do anything. All we did was craft beer. And actually, how much do we have left? No, we just made a lot of beer. How much? Okay, so about like, we got about 700 done. But yeah, overall, if you need other stuff, let me know. I do have a Discord, just you can find it on my channel page somewhere if you want to just ask a question and all that stuff. So yeah, once again, let me know if you enjoyed this kind of video or you didn't. Would you actually rather see more gameplay? That's actually going to be what I'm going to do more often. Like usually I just do something and not these kind of Q&A videos. But yeah, I feel like these are going to be special things, but let me know if you actually don't like these and I won't do them as often. But maybe I was considering maybe like once a week I could do these kind of Q&A videos where I just sit here and do absolutely nothing but answer questions that I got about BDO. So yeah, with that said, thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys later.